Yes, it is Thursday. Y'all know what day it is. It's Boston the Sauce Day right here with the Sauce himself. How you feeling, Big Ragu?
Hey DJ, how are you doing tonight? I'm doing great. Fantastic. Good to be with you as usual. How are you doing out in Cali today, my man?
It's doing great, man. I don't know. They came up out of nowhere with these. It was gonna be some heavy winds and the heat pressure because it's cold. And now that we got fires, we got fires going on right now as we speak in California. You know, God bless all the people. Get out of the homes. Don't get caught up in the fire. But yeah, I guess it's gonna be a small fire season for a little while.
Starting up early this year, huh? Just crazy. You never know. I mean, we go from hurricanes to fires, back to winds, back to rains. It's nuts. But that's why you got to enjoy life every day. So life's a big party. We got to live it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we just keep plugging away. How's what's going on in the sports world today? What we got going on tonight for the people in the chat and the people out in YouTube land?
Oh man, you know we got some Thursday games on right now. We got some Friday games, and you know we definitely got some Saturday games coming up.
Yeah.
Funny, my Thursday and Friday record has been pretty good this year. It's only 1 or 2 games. I can't mess up too much.
you limit your exposure. You know that's what you're supposed to do. It's all about picking your spots and having fun. But you know what? Even the casual fans, you know, they sit back home watching the game on a Thursday night. You know, they want to throw a little something on the game just to make it a little more interesting. You can do that. Just just have fun. Know what you're doing, and do your homework first. Come check us out and get some good information and have fun with it.
Absolutely. And make sure y'all leave some posts and some comments for us to come back to you guys and keep the narrative going. Ask us any question after the show, before the show. You can hit us up on our Twitters. That's right there with our tag. And, you know, feel free. You know, we totally transparent right here on the Who-Bangin Sports Talk channel, period. But right here on the Boston Sauce, we set the standards of being transparent and definitely getting back with everybody who's involved with us. We appreciate everybody who comes on and hangs out and, you know, joins our chat, all our low baggers and all that stuff. But, yes, it's another Boss and the Sauce Thursday, 6 p.m., 9 p.m. on the east side. You don't know what it is. We right here. I'm DJ Big Boss, and I'm with the Sauce, the Big Ragu himself. Let's get into some capping this week. Lay a pick out there or something for our 9,000 viewers right now.
Absolutely. You know, let me talk about one thing before I give you a little pick. I mean, we're going to give some college football looks, but I mean, if you guys, I'm sure there's you being out in California, right? What's the sentiment right now with the LA Dodgers taking it a rough way out with the Washington team yesterday in the baseball? Was there a lot of disappointment in LA?
Absolutely not, Big Ragu. I mean, of course, everybody was mad as they was. Quite a few Dodger fans. I know a couple fans that were Cappers that were on the other side on this one. And, you know, we've been going through it year after year, you know, so, you know, expect not too much and you'll get just what you expected when you're coming down to the Dodgers. But it was kind of ironic to me that somehow, again, Kershaw came in to be a deciding factor with the Dodgers in the postseason period. I don't know, like, I'm pretty sure this guy definitely got to be gone by now.
Roberts,
after this one. Roberts and Kershaw. I mean, I thought it was a great move moving Kershaw, you know, to the bullpen for the night, and look what it did. It smacked us in the face.
Well, here's the thing about, you know, aces, especially, you know, your top-notch guys coming out of the bullpen. You know, you want to try to salvage the series at all costs. That's, you know, because there is no tomorrow. When you're in an elimination game, you got to go for it. And whatever it costs comes to the team, you got to take your shot because there's no tomorrow. But the only disagreement I had, I wasn't in disagreement for him bringing Kershaw in. I was in disagreement for after he hit that home run to let him stay in and throw to the next batter because there's only 2 pitches, 2 home runs, you know. And that, you know, that was basically the start of the end of the beginning for him. But you know, you got to give credit for Washington for hanging around too. So, but you know, certain teams they're like it's kind of like teaching an old dog new trick. They get set in their ways, and especially when it comes to the manager. You know, when a manager keeps making the same mistakes year after year, I agree with you. It's time for him to hit the bricks.
Yeah, I mean, definitely on Roberts, but Kershaw, that one. I don't see why would you savor on that one. Obviously, the guy just can't get over the hump. That's what I call it. Some players just reach a point. You can psychoanalyze them. You can put them in extended training. You could try all these different methods, but you got some athletes that just peak out at certain sections, and his might just be the regular season, because the postseason is definitely not for Kershaw, man. But shout out to you for jumping all over that yesterday. I've seen you all over the place. Nanny on my team, Big Ragu.
Well, yeah, my look it wasn't even on that particular game. My look was, during when they were trying to figure out the wild cards, we kind of knew Washington had to be as a top wild, one or two at least for the wild card. And then when the Brewers and the Cardinals and we knew the Braves were going to win everything. But anyways, when they were trying to sort things out in the National League, I told a lot of people early, I says, you know what, if the Nats get into the playoffs and they meet the Dodgers after the wild card round, I'm going to take the Nats to beat them in the divisional series. And I didn't even think about it twice. When that came about, I just ran to the window, just like we said, see you at the window. I went to the window and I put a little, wager down on the Nats to win it. I think it was like plus 230. So I had no interest in trying to double up or getting out of that play yesterday. So I just let it ride, and it went to my benefit. So normally I was, you had the benefit of watching the game on the West Coast. Over here it was like 1 o'clock in the morning. I was up with toothpicks in my eyes, because I get up every morning. I get up around 5:30. So I didn't get a lot of sleep last night, but I went to sleep with a smile on my face. But I feel for the Dodger fans. I really do, because that was a bad beat. Definitely was. So it happens. That's sports. That's the way sports is. That's what makes it exciting. That's why people enjoy watching the games. Because there's nothing like postseason baseball this time of the year. So how we doing with the chat?
Oh, we doing all right, man. We got our guy Buck Nasty in here, and the party animal of them all, Prince of the City, is in the building. Shout out to Prince in the City. He says that you owe him dinner. I don't know nothing about that, but he says you owe him dinner.
I owe him dinner, huh? Okay. If he says so, I guess I owe.
There it is. A dinner is a drop in the bucket from my guy, Big Ragu, man. Prince, you got that. Just make it on down to Florida and hang out with him at the racetrack, and I'm sure they'll probably give you a steak dinner just for rolling in with Big Ragu.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we got to eat somewhere, right? So might as well sit down and eat with friends. So come on down. Matter of fact, if you come, I'll buy your dinner too. How's that?
I'm almost there now, just thinking about it, because I know the portion size where you at is way better than portion size over here, man. Golly, all this plant-based food and all this stuff. Big guy like me just gonna shrivel up on the West Coast. But
I ain't gonna let him do that to you. Trust me. Even if I got to get on a plane, come out and feed you, I'm on my way. So
that's right. That's right.
We ain't let that happen.
Don't let them whip me out like they did. All these Hollywood stars, man, they just start shrinking overnight and everything. I don't want to be all sucked up and stuff. I want to be Big Boss. However it go, man. But I like being healthy too, so it's all good.
Hey, it's in our names, right? Big and big, so we got to keep the big rolling. So
yeah, we got to keep it up for the big guys.
We're not going to miss too many meals. So
not at all. But let's talk about the state of college football this week. This is week 7. Now we talked last week, and I can say I was pretty much spot on teams knowing what they could do well, and conference play starting and these games switching up tempos and all that kind of stuff. And it definitely happened. It's week 7. It gets a little more stickier here. We got bigger sample size to go through. And on top of that, conference thing, we got, you got to start looking at what happened the last time these two teams meet. Because, earlier in the season don't really matter because you don't know much about each team. But as a team, say, a number 2 team sees the number 3 team, you got to look at that matchup and see what's the history of these two teams. Because sometimes Big Brother can just shadow out Little Brother. And then sometimes Little Brother is mad because you smashed him in the bathroom or something, So you got to keep a lookout for that. But I'm treading lightly, Big Ragu. I'm taking a whole nother angle to this week, and I'm just gonna die out because I usually just jump right into smoke, but I'm gonna die out and I'm gonna settle for these weird spots for the next 2 weeks or so till the conference kind of peaks out and shows us where it's at. Who's
Yeah.
when they start dividing themselves on their own, and which we'll talk about later when we get into the Big 12 talk, because they got a lot of division over. They already played a couple conference games, so we got a lot to talk about with that. And our guy Noli Knows is in the house. One of our channels, MLB Professionals, is in the house with us. What up, though, Noli? And once again, the Boss and the Sauce Show right here every Thursday, 6 p.m. on the West, 9 p.m. on the East. Hangout, chat, comment, all that good stuff. We appreciate you guys coming. So we're gonna jump into some picks now, and then we're gonna chop it up a little later about the Big 12 and getting to some interesting stuff about there. You want to throw a pick out there first, Big Ragu?
Yeah, let me make one comment before I give you the pick. One of my plays when you talk about getting into conference play, right? So basically, and you talk about smaller sample sizes, early looks for these teams that they're playing out of conference games. Usually, like the first couple weeks, 2-3 weeks, sometimes there's still some of the teams are still playing out of conference, but now you say, you're kind of getting into week 7 already. I mean, we're like halfway through the season, basically, in college football, and now they're just starting to get into the real conference play. They already have maybe like 2 games under their belt, and now you're starting to see. So the numbers are going to be skewed a little bit. So, and this was brought up in other conversations that if you look, you just can't take the sample sizes based on the data that's compiled on the scoring on the defenses and the offenses, because you have to look at the opponents that we're playing. So now you're going to get another skew coming in, and usually when you get into the conference play, and this is one thing I like to keep in mind, and always take it with a grain of salt too, but you always have to look at the numbers are going to start to constrict a little bit. I don't think you're going to see the same. You're not going to see the same high flying numbers on the offense. You're going to see a little bit tighter numbers on the defenses, and that's all varies by the conference too. But generally speaking, this is the time of the year where the numbers will start to tighten up a little bit. So just keep that in mind when you're doing your capping. So, anyways, we'll get into a look here. This game is going to go tomorrow night. It's played down in Miami, and you got a Virginia squad coming into town, which you and I both, when we did our reviews on the ACC, we both were pretty high on that Virginia squad. They're a very well coached team. Bronco Mendenhall, this is his 4th year down in Virginia now. He's really kind of turned that locker room around and got everybody on board. They play a different style of ball as far as when it comes on offense. They're not a real prolific offense, but their quarterback Perkins, he does a real nice job, running the option over there, and he's a pretty mobile quarterback, and they're not a prolific offense, but they do a lot of the right things. But defensively, they're really, really strong. And when I first looked at this game, I know they're coming to Miami. We know Miami has their issues with the offensive line, and they went and they're back to their quarterback changes again. Now they're bringing Perry back in. They sat the Williams down. He's sitting down, and the kid Perry, he went to school locally where I live. Matter of fact, the same school that Dante Culpepper. You remember him, right?
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, he played high school ball at the same school that Dante did. But he's a youngster. They're all pretty young, the quarterbacks, so they're still trying to feel their way around. So my first thought when I looked at this is just, this had the look of a dead under on there. So I was like, you know what? I like it. But then when I started capping the game out, I was like, I think the line was like Miami was like 1.5 or 1 point, and then that went up to like 2.5. So, and now you got a ranked team. I think they're 19-18 coming into unranked team, and the home team is favored by less than a field goal. So when I see it, I see something like that happening, and when I see the line starting to move a certain way, we've seen it a few times this year with those low numbers, with the team that's not ranked favored over the team that's ranked and their home turf. To me, that's a pretty good look there overall. And I think Miami, they're really pissed off because they had that bad loss. They took it home against Virginia Tech the week before, and they're ready to go. And the word on the street is these kids are really motivated to play this game, and you got Virginia coming off of 2 tough losses. They lost to I believe it was Old Dominion at home, and then they took your squad on in North Bend. Notre Dame
Yeah.
took them to the woodshed. So props to you guys there. So they're coming off of 2 tough losses and having to go back-to-back road games. So everything from a handicapping standpoint sets up for Miami to kind of get the W. As long as Miami doesn't, trip up amongst themselves on the offensive side, I would definitely lean to the under, even though I think that number's calmed down from like 43 to like 41, somewhere in that range. But to me, the more sensible play would be up Miami on the side at home to get the victory. Why screw around with a total where you could have a couple turnovers here or there to push the game over? And if they're scoring, like, say, 17 points apiece, 20 points, and then all of a sudden, you get a pick six or a fumblerooski, and now the game goes over, and then you have the right side. That's you might as well rip the ticket up. So I'm going to be on Miami minus 2.5 points in this game right here. That goes tomorrow night, by the way.
Hey,
Friday.
Only right here on the Boss and the Sauce Show will you get word on the street from Florida right here. You heard it first from my guy, the Sauce, who let him know what's going on down there in Florida. That's good information, Big Ragu. Now, I'm going to bounce over to some other things right here. So I'm going to jump right into that angle I was talking about that I'm taking this week. And I think Teddy beat me up pretty bad on the show today about this game that I'm taking. But this is my it's got to be a meatball play. But I see a real angle at this one as well. And so what I did was I went and searched, the rankings of offenses, defenses, the teams, and, efficiency and stuff like that. And I flip it upside down. And I look at the teams that's not doing that well at all, especially the ones that are doing bad on defense. Because bad on defense, I'm trying to pick on the teams that's bad. You in the 7th week. If we ain't got it going by now, and I'm on the team, we already know we bad on defense, offense. We already thinking what we gonna do next year. Those spoiled guys in the locker room. Now they can switch over to different colleges. They start thinking about them kind of options and stuff. So just like we seen when we did the preview of the teams, and we seen eventually in some conferences, some teams just at the bottom, and some teams are just do better. They start separating themselves. So I went after the bad teams. Now this Bowling Green team is pretty bad. They're 117th on defense, 116 on offense. They average 14 points a game, and they give opponents 40 points a game and 473 yards. And on defense, they've only had 6 sacks for the year. They just have a lot of bad stats, period. But they do have some studs on the defense. And, my guy from Notre Dame, Van Gorder, he's over there. And he's a blitzer. And, you blitz, halftime adjustments, sideline adjustments, you find the open receiver and you score, stuff like that when teams blitz a lot. So this team is not only bad on defense, they also bad on offense. So overall, I'm looking for this team. So I went after them, and if I would have jumped on Toledo, as soon as the door opened, I could have got it at 24, but it's already jumped up 26. Higher at some places. And, that's a lot of touchdowns to place with a team that also can't play much defense themselves. They're 115th in defense. They're giving up 23 points a game, 464 yards, and they can't really cover the pass well. Well, luckily, Bowling Green, they can't throw the ball well. So they get a night off on that. They got a couple studs over there. Now, this is the one thing that I noticed about some of these teams. I started looking into the tacklers, best tacklers on defense. And when you look at the best tackler on defense, when your best tackler is coming from safety, cornerback, or free safety, or in those areas, it's something you want to think about. That means that the offense is getting to the second level, or either they're blitzing a lot. You got to kind of figure it out. And this team over here in Toledo, they blitz a lot too. But when I watched the Toledo Colorado State game, these guys can really run the ball well. They don't really defend the run well, but they can run the ball really well. And so Toledo already know the 25 on offense, they average 33 points a game. Their best look is to try to outscore this team because they don't have any offense, and then their defense is not that good as well. So I went aside from the side, and I went over to the total. So I like the under 65 because I don't think that Bowling Green is going to get too many touchdowns. Even if they score 14, I still got plenty of points. I figure Toledo scores 30, 40 points. Bowling Green maybe scores 14, and I still got a little wiggle room in there with the 65. And I knew it was going to go up because after the Colorado State game with Toledo, that score skyrocketed. So they just looking at Toledo as a scoring machine. But I don't see where they see three. Maybe they do a little better. Maybe, like I said, 42, 14, 17. We still under 65. So I'm going under 65 in the Bowling Green game against Toledo in Bowling Green.
Yeah, I like that look. You don't think Bowling Green is going to contribute a whole lot of nothing to that game to kind of push that total up? You think it's all going to be one-sided action? Now, let me ask you a question about the offense on the other side. You think they're gonna run the ball more than pass it to get that 40, or are they more like a ball control type offense or more of a balanced attack?
Well, they do rush the ball 66% of the time, and they throw it 33% of the time, and they don't do too well. They had a 53% completion rating or completion percentage and 206 yards. So they don't throw very well, but they do move the ball on the ground. So they're probably gonna, when they play Colorado State, they moved the ball on the ground. They stuck with it. So they have a possession of 30 minutes a game, their possession time. So this team right here, they can hold the ball. They're a running team. They're playing against a team with no defense. I mean, it's not like when you're doing the running game and you score a few touchdowns, you get so happy you start passing. So if they run over these guys and they're just going to continue to run and we're going to have the clock on our side, leaning on the over that 65, I like it. I love it.
Just to put an example on what you talk about running and number of plays. See, now here's something I kind of looked at last night. Like we were looking at that Appalachian State Louisiana game last night, right? The total was like 70 points. 70. I mean, now they're both averaging like 35 to 40 points a game, which is pretty prolific. You're talking about a lot of plays, but here we go again. We're talking about who do they play? Who do they play? Now they're getting in conference, and the past couple of years, App State has beaten this team twice. They beat them in the championship and they beat them in the regular season. So they've always matched up well with this team. So, but then I did a little more digging from a total perspective. You talk about staying the under. So I looked at the plays, and both of these teams, I think the App State team had ran about 60 plays a game, and the other team ran a little over 50 some odd plays. And then if you looked at how they ran them, it was like 40 and 20, like 40 runs, 20 passes, 35 runs, 20 passes. So that's telling me that they're just going to sit here and pound the rock. And if they're able to, convert convert third downs, and if you look at their average play per yard, that type of thing, they're basically telling you that's an under game. And they get to 70, I mean, there's no way in the world. Now, that's when you got to unpeel the layers and look at who they played in the conference or who they opened up against. Now that, like I said, they're going to start constricting those numbers a little bit. So that was like the perfect opportunity. So you're probably on the right path with that same type of thing. That's why when I was asking you whether they run or pass, that's what I was trying to figure out, like how they split their play. So they're like 2/3, 1/3, 2/3 run, 1/3 pass. So that's a good look. I like that a lot.
Yeah, and I like that look in Appalachian State. That 70, yeah, that was a wonderful under right there. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Because the line setters, they're kind of glued in to having to do the computer analysis on a lot of this stuff. They have to get the bulk of their information from computer analysis nowadays, and they for them to put out a solid line, which is trustworthy for both sides. They have to use those computer analysis and stuff. And because they're stuck to that, we still got windows open where we can find spots. And last night, that was a wonderful spot. It was so much bias in the games that they played before. And like I said earlier, you got to go to the history between the two teams. And then you got to think, Appalachian State, a running team, they're on the road on a team that they played and they beat plenty of times before. they're gonna come in and play the game slow at a slow tempo. It's gonna take the other team to outplay them for them to bring the pace up, and that's all they did. Like they were totally humble with 7-0. They were humble at all those on goal line. They were still humble because they the big brother in that situation, and I call it big brother. They big brother them right there, and took them down. You got another one for them?
Yeah, I'm going to stay with these plays that I gave you. I had one that I didn't give you, but I might talk about that one first. I was looking at well, let me talk about the one I gave you. I'm going to go in order. So more or less, I gave you the Miami game. Now here's another team that I've been pretty good with this year. Wake Forest is they got a game coming up, and I believe that game is Saturday. Let me see what time that game goes. Saturday. That's a Saturday evening game, I believe. They're playing Louisville in Wake Forest in North Carolina. Now, Louisville, they got a first-year coach, Satterfield. Now, to tell you the truth, I'm really surprised how well this team plays, even though their record. I mean, they're 3-2, and they played. They started out playing Notre Dame first game of the season. They lost, and then they played Eastern Kentucky, Western Kentucky. No big deal. But they took a tough road game early on, or they played at home against Notre Dame early in the season. Then they went to play Florida State, which they took a loss, and they were competitive in that game too. And then they lost. They won a 2-point game at Boston College. So all the tough games, all the games that they played for the FBS schools, Notre Dame, Florida State, Boston College were all pretty good games. Even though they lost that game to Notre Dame, they got doubled up. 17-35. It's still, a respectable game for them, and a first-year coach nonetheless. So here's the thing, though. When Satterfield took the team over, Louisville has always done pretty well recruiting, and I think we had that conversation. They get a lot of kids from Florida that play up in that program, so I'm well familiar with that. And usually when I tell you when they play FSU, they give them a hard time, but FSU won by 11, and they were getting like 6.5, so they covered late in that game. But now they got to go play Wake Forest. Now, Wake, they were pretty pathetic on defense last year. And Wake likes to run the spread offense. They like to run an up-tempo style offense. Right. And right now, the quarterback that they have, he's like the top quarterback in the ACC overall. He's even got better numbers than Trevor Lawrence, if you can believe that. But they're 5-0. They're undefeated in conference. They right now they only played realistically they only played one conference game. No, I'm sorry, two conference games. They played North Carolina and Boston College, and they won both of those games. They were 3.5 points. They covered that, and I think they only had they had an early loss against the spread against Utah State. They were 4.5. They lost they won by 3, and then they were last week. They were a 4.5 point favorite over Boston College. They didn't cover that game. At Boston College, they won by 3 there. So they've always been close to the number when they haven't covered. And but this team, what they like to do, and I noticed this of late, like I was betting them first halves because they run it up tempo and they kind of like to score pretty fast. But I've noticed since they got in conference play, they've kind of slowed it down just a little bit. But their defense is what's really been selling me on this team of late because they've held their opponents down to, like in the 20s, 18-7. So they've matched up against some pretty decent competition, but they haven't allowed a whole lot of points. Now, the thing that scares me about Louisville a little bit is this team can score, and they've got 2 really good wide receivers, and they got pretty good quarterback play. So they hit the 30s and the 40s consistently, this team here does. So I think some of the other teams that Wake went up against, some of those teams, they were cracking like the teens and the 20s, and like Utah State cracked 35 on them, but everybody else has been below 24 points. So Louisville is going to give them a little different look here. But I think what's going to happen in the first half, and I almost did this, but I didn't. I think the first half is going to be a low-scoring first half, but I think in the second half is when this team, even though they're going to run the up-tempo, they're going to run this quarterback. He runs the RPO option, and he can take off and run the ball, and he can throw it downfield too. I think the defense is going to keep it close in the first half, and I think turnover-wise, they've had pretty good turnovers. Like there's been a couple games where they've had multiple turnovers, but themselves, they haven't turned the ball over a lot. There's been games where they have 0 turnovers, and there's been games where they had 1 turnovers. But they are the least penalized team. That's a key factor. They're the least penalized team in college football. So they're not making the dumb plays. They're not turning the ball over. They're doing a lot of the right things. And that usually is a good sign when you put a team on the field. Now they're giving up, I think 6 points is the number. And I already put the 6 in for full game. So I'm going to take Wake Forest minus 6 points against Louisville. That's my second play that I'm going to give on the show today.
Y'all heard it here first. I like that look too, Big Ragu, and that goes to what I was talking about when we opened into these picks about being in week 7. Like I said, I flipped the chart upside down. You just took the chart where it was and you went into some different pockets of it. Stuff like special teams efficiency, stuff like turnovers, different stuff like that is the key factors. Like you said, the team hasn't really lost by much. You know, maybe not really won by much. That's off top. A team that's probably has a great ATS, and I haven't even looked it up. But those are the angles that you want to look. You want to find the diamonds. It's week 7. You want to find the diamonds in the rough right now that some people might have counted out, but they have the proven stats. They have the high turnover ratio, the low penalties, all those different factors is where you want to be in this week and trying to settle in on a team that you're going to ride out into, bowl season and stuff like that. But also in this week is separation. So some of these teams are like a lot of people have a lot of hope in Louisville, and they showed to be a better team than last year. So public perception is always there for the dogs and the under guys to do better. But when you reach conference play 2-3 weeks in it, I'm getting tired of getting hit upside my head to barely lose or barely win. I'm not feeling it this week. And these guys are shock you right there. So you want to hang with the teams that either do stuff well or fade the teams that don't do stuff good at all. Now that leads me to my. Oh, go ahead, Big Ragu.
No, I was going to say Louisville. That's a scary team for this matchup because they're not bad. They're like you said, first year. There's the first year for their system, and they've kind of adapted pretty well. And I always had here's another thing I always had, and I said this last year when I first started doing the videos and not the shows, but more or less the videos. But I always said and when you have a first year coach, you don't bet on them early in the season. You start betting on them later in the season, around mid to late October. And here we are right in the thick of things. So, we'll see. I mean, that's going to be a tough game for them. If they win this game convincingly, then I'm not saying that Louisville's a bad team. They're pretty decent. So they got a winning record. They're 3-2. So we'll see. But anyways, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to tell you about that coaching scenario. When you have a first-year coach, don't bet them early in the season. Bet them mid to late season.
That's right. You heard it from the Sauce himself, coming right to you live from Florida on the Boston the Sauce Show. This is real. I got to pinch myself. Is this real? It's so wonderful right here on the Boston the Sauce Show. And we had a wonderful comment here from Jonathan Jansky. He says, I flashed it up before. I'm going to do it again. This is his new favorite show, the 9,001 viewer, Big Ragu.
Welcome in.
We're moving things. Congratulations to him for finding us to come enjoy some great times. And don't forget to catch us tomorrow on the Who-Bangin Sports Lounge, where we just kind of relax on another level and really go through some other topics and some other things. As you can tell, we're not one of them shows that's out here trying to get your money to buy our picks or none of that kind of stuff. We're really just trying to share some quality content and some good information, help everybody get on the right side, not the wrong side, right here on the Boston the Sauce. But let me lead into my next pick. This is my best bet out of the Mountain West, where I do it the best, or maybe I don't do it so much the best, but it's back on my angle right here, finding teams who do stuff bad and capitalizing on them right here. New Mexico, Colorado State. We got New Mexico ranked 127th defense, giving up 39 points a game, 513 yards. They do have nine sacks and 1 interception. The alarming thing that they do really bad is they're giving up 386 yards at a 65% completion rate, on defense. And here we go, Colorado State, even team. They run and pass evenly. Now that's a big advantage to me. That means we can adjust. We can either if they take our run, we can pass. If they go after the pass, we can run. So that's a big factor right here. And Colorado State offense is ranked number 34 in this one, and I've seen them go before. They can run the ball really well. They do kind of the zone blocking thing and spread guys out and run up and down the field in the seams. And they got some really fast guys, and it works out. McKenzie over there, 618 yards, 4 touchdowns. And they had a receiver over there, D. Wright. He's 487 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now, the only problem that happened at Colorado State is that they lost their key quarterback who they've been working with for years, Colin Hill. They spent a lot of time in that guy, with the system. They didn't expect him to go down like that. They didn't prepare. So they went through 2 other quarterbacks, and this guy that they started, Patrick O'Brien, he's going to be the guy for them. Like, the team is behind them a little bit. And a good thing about this game right here, too, is next game is a bye, so they can with New Mexico State, West, no. Crazy matchup right here, right? Mike Bobo, sick last year, hospitalized, all that kind of stuff, back on his feet. And here we go, Bob Davie, sick this year, didn't make it the trip to Notre Dame. And so we got some coaches going through their things. And, when you have stuff like that, players can come together for stuff like that. They really like the guy. But it's Colorado State guy, Mike Bobo. He's been getting this offense going. They've been scoring good points in every game that they play. And here we go. When I capped this game, I had them at Colorado State -10 because New Mexico, they played a high-scoring game against New Mexico State, and now they think that, I expected it. It was right after the Notre Dame game. They took a nice vacation to Notre Dame and played some football. They came back home enthusiastic. But guess what? We're in that part of the conference where we need to separate the real from the fake. And it's time for New Mexico. At 3.5, I'm going to take it. Colorado State -3.5.
Yeah, I like that. They're playing up at they're playing at altitude too, right? That's a home game for them?
It's in it's in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Oh, it's in Albuquerque. Okay. Yeah, New Mexico.
Yeah, they are on the road.
Okay, so that's a road game for them. I mean, that shouldn't matter for them, basically, because New Mexico State, that's a team you definitely don't want to get behind. It's like you saying, you're trying to get those matchups where, it's definitely going to favor one team over the other. So I like that. Not funny thing you said that, but when I'm first starting out in the season, that's a look I like, but there's nothing wrong with doing it all season because now you have bigger sample sizes to work those angles on. So that's definitely a good look there. I like that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I always feel way much better when I'm blessed by the sauce because I'm the boss and we got to get this money, man. But I'm gonna give one more pick. That's gonna be it for me, and then we'll have a Big Ragu give us his last pick there. And my next pick, where did this pick go? I don't know what I done did. Oh, here it is. Wyoming. State last week. This guy, the coach over there, just has a really good team, a lot better than he even thinks sometimes. These guys play really well. And the thing about these two running teams, I really like the under in that game. It's a fantastic defense on both sides, both teams. The ball a lot better. Way down and played on the defensive side of the ball because they're very physical. They're big. They like to, play the game in the trenches and all that good stuff. So you're going to see a really slow, good fought game right here. But I'm going to take San Diego State to prevail in that one. And also another one of my meatball plays because it takes 2 meatballs to make a nice little meatball sandwich. So the first meatball is going to be the under in the Green game, and the next meatball is going to be the under in this in this San Diego State Wyoming game.
In the words of our friend Dom, under, UNDA, under, baby.
Anda. So that's my picks on the Boss and the Sauce show for this week. Big Ragu, you want to give them your last picks?
Yeah, I'm going to give him I call it my Benedict Arnold play. And what I mean by Benedict Arnold is I'm on a team 1 week and I'm going against him the next week. And so far it's worked out pretty good. If I have to go back and look at the percentages, it's got to be pretty good. But the team I was with last week was my money line underdog pick. I gave it on the show, our Saturday show. I picked the Gators to win, outright at home, which, small number, but still win's a win. And they got the job done, and they won convincingly in that game too. So this week they got to go travel to LSU. Now LSU has got the number one offense in the country. I mean, they're scoring more points than anybody right now. And the funny thing was when they made their change, when they got the offensive coordinator came in, kind of changed up the whole scheme of things from Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, the quarterback for LSU, he was 200-1 for a Heisman candidate. Now, I think he's sitting like 8 or 10-1. So if you were able to run to the window, but nobody, I mean, hindsight is 20/20. If we would have known that, we all would have done the same thing. But new offense, RPO, he was very comfortable in that. He played it in high school. And when he got the coordinator in there, he was like real excited about running it. And man, I'll tell you the truth. The funny thing is, they're racking like 600 yards of offense, like over 400 and something yards a game, roughly on average. But if you look at the RPO, run pass option, he's ran the ball 20 times and he's averaged less than 2 yards a carry. So the guys took off 20 times and got less than 40 yards. So much for the run part of the offense. It's mostly the pass, I would say, and the option, not on his side. But I think we're going to have here for the Gators. Now the Gators are coming. If you ever been to a game, and I know you have family in Louisiana, have you ever been down to Baton Rouge and watched a game down there at LSU? Or
no, I've been there. Like it down there. So out of all the places they took me, that was the place I liked the best. But no, I never was there with it packed up with people for the game.
Yeah, but all right. So I'll tell you my look on this game. So basically, like I said, I already kind of gave it away because I said I'm a Benedict Arnold. I like Florida last week. This week I'm gonna roll with the Tigers, and I'm gonna tell you why here, and just for a couple of reasons. Number one, Florida's quarterback Trask. Kyle Trask, he's wearing a knee brace, so he's not 100%. He got knocked out of the game and came back in. And right now they got he's a backup. He's a backup quarterback. Now their backup is a high school kid that played local, not too far away here in Winter Springs. He was like an all-state quarterback. He was a walk-on. He wasn't even a scholarship athlete. So that's who they have sitting right now in the backup role to Trask. So if he goes down there, in a whole world of trouble. So I'm keeping that in the back of my mind. But now the Gators, when they've played the tough teams, looking back on the schedule, they played Miami, and I call it a tough team. They played Tennessee, and they played Auburn. So they had three, basically, 2 in conference, 1 out of conference. 3 quality opponent, if you want to call them quality opponents on the schedule. We know Auburn was because Auburn was ranked 7 when they came to the Swamp and the Gators beat them. Miami, they opened up. We watched that. And Tennessee's kind of having a bad year. But in all of those games, the Gators have turned the ball over like 3, 4, and 4 times. 4 times against Miami, they walked away with a win. They turned it over 3 times against Tennessee. And they turned the ball over 4 times against Auburn and still got the win. So, in other words, they're skating on thin ice, and that was telling me. So all those teams that they played against, they were struggling offensively. So Miami struggled offensively. Auburn struggled. Now the Gators defense, they've got the number one defensive, the number one pass defense. They got a bunch of interceptions. I think they're like in the 10, 12 range. on the turnovers on the DB side. So they can light it up with the DBs and the safeties, stopping the pass. They're solid there. But this, that's going to be the matchup. The matchup for these guys is going to be how healthy can that, and they're banged up on offensive line too, so they have issues there. When LSU gets after these guys, and if they get the turnovers, if the Gators are going to turn over the ball more than 2 or 3 times here, they're not going to live to tell about it because LSU is they're going to make them pay in a big way because this team can score and they can score big. So I think the issue is going to be not so much whether the Gators defense is going to slow down LSU. LSU is going to get their points, and Florida might get their points also. But by the time the turnovers come into play, which I think, Gators, if they have their issues and turn the ball over, it's going to be a long day for them. And the way I see it, it's just going to be a matter of time. They're going to hang around. When's that explosion going to come? When's that explosion going to come? And when the LSU hits them, they're going to hit them hard, and they're going to hit them below the belt, and it's going to hurt. So it's a 2-touchdown game. It's like 12.5, 13. I think LSU wins by 2 or 3 scores at a minimum here. I think LSU is going to light them up pretty bad.
There you go. You heard it first right here. Now, I was a heavy advocate of LSU. I really like their defense. And the offense can be slow, though, and they can be explosive at times. But that's a really good look. I totally agree with you when you say Florida's skating on thin ice. They've been getting away with the quarterback situation and all that. And now they are going to see a defense that's really going to get after them. So I like that right there, man. I'm sure everybody in the chat appreciate all your breakdown and all that good stuff right there, man. But we're getting close to the last 15 minutes of the show. Let's jump into the Big 12 review. As you know, if you don't know, me and my guy, Big Ragu, we've done some previews earlier this season of all the teams. You can go back and watch them team for team or conference for conference. And the Big 12 was definitely one of the conferences that we went through and did a thorough take of the Big 12. Anything pops out to you, Big Ragu, about the Big 12?
Well, here's a unique thing about the Big 12. They don't have an East or a West or a North and a South or a side and a up. They have 12 teams in their conference. Or is it 12 now? 2, 4. It might be 10.
It's 10. No, it's 10.
It's 10. Yeah, they call it. See, now the Big 12 should be called the Big 10, and the Big 12, the Big 10 should be called Big. Well, they got 14 in the
Big 14.
Yeah, but anyways, the Big 12. I tell you what, it's one of my favorite conferences. As far as you talk about a conference that if you like offense, this conference is loaded with a bunch of teams that can score. But this year there's a little bit more turmoil in this conference because they have 4 new coaches at the helm here that are kind of took over there. You have we'll start off with Kansas. When we did our reviews, we talked about first year coaches and whatnot. But Kansas has now. If you were to take, let me run it to you this way. If I gave you these 4 coaches, I want you to tell me who do you think would have the better opportunity to kind of, who would you think would be a step above the other in the conference? So you have Les Miles, the Mad Hatter, the Riverboat Gambler, coming into Kansas. And he's taking over Kansas. You have Chris Kleiman taking over for K-State. You have Neil Brown at West Virginia and Matt Wells at Texas Tech. So right now, when we talk about bringing these guys in, these first-year coaches, it's a new system. Players, some teams have empty cupboards. Some got the cupboard stacked a little bit. But anyways, who would you say would, if you had to pick a coach, which one would you say would probably have the best scenario, or who would be doing the best out of those 4 coaches?
I would say Neil Brown.
You would say Neil Brown for West Virginia?
Yeah, I would say Neil Brown. Yeah, I would say Neil Brown.
Well, right now, the way it looks, Chris Kleiman has got the best scenario right now because in conference, even though he's 0-2 in conference, but he's 3-2 overall. So Kansas State, they won their first 3 games of the season, but then they lost their last 2 looks for the conference play. But they probably got the best. They probably got the best shot to get to a bowl game right now because they got 3 wins. Now your other guy, he's 3-2 overall. West Virginia. You're right. Hey, you know what? I got to agree with you somewhat. Neil Brown. They were sneaky good because I didn't think West Virginia was 3-2, but they're 1-1 in conference, and they're 2-1 at home. So they actually have the edge up on Kansas State. So yeah, you might be right about that. You might be right. And then Les Miles, he got the shit pile. He got the he got the empty cupboard. He got no, he didn't have a lot to work with, but he did have that big win on the East Coast against Boston College, and that opened a lot of people's eyes when they won that game. So going forward, we're talking the bottom, not the bottom of the barrel. We're talking like the teams that are going to need the most work in this conference. Those are your teams: Kansas, K-State, West Virginia, and Texas Tech, all with first-year coaches. And those are the teams that, in the future, we'll talk if 3-4 years down the road, those are probably the teams that'll be going after the Oklahomas and the Texases. Speaking of that, what do you got to say about the conference as far as surprises and disappointment so far?
Well, I had the time to go back and listen to our preview video, and it was funny that you just was talking about that. In the preview of Kansas, I was, I guess you could say, dead wrong, because I was like, who even gave Les Miles this job to come to Kansas? Like, this must be some type of scam or something going on with him. And then you was over there like, Kansas is going to have to be one of the worst Power 5 teams in the whole college right now. And those guys, I mean, I can't, they have a 2-4 record, which is not the best. But at the same time, that win against Baylor was, the one win that they got was
Boston
really
College.
Boston College was really good for them. And Les Miles, I don't know what he is ATS, but he's probably good ATS because he really took some of these teams the whole way in the games. And this guys that he got, I think he got back. He started with 5 on offense, 6 on defense. And I thought about that. I said, wow, he had 5 on offense, 6 on defense. Well, coming in as a coach with a little tricks up your sleeve, you probably could get the best out of those 5 or 6. And those new ones coming in, they probably feel like, hey, I was coming to this state, and now look what kind of coach I get, what kind of connections he got, what kind of staff he got. And they're probably excited to play for him. So we might want to keep an eye on Kansas in the future, maybe not this year, but expect them ATS, maybe want to take them double digits or something like that. But we're going to keep an eye on Kansas. But another one I went over that was quite appealing too was you was really high on Baylor. You was really, really high on Baylor on the thing. And look at Baylor right now, they edge out Oklahoma in the conference because of their schedule. Yeah, they're considered the number 1, and Oklahoma's considered the number 2 in the conference, because I believe Baylor had more conference play than Oklahoma. So Texas wasn't pretty much of a surprise, but Texas is banged up. Like go to ESPN, go to covers, hit injuries. Look at Texas. It scrolls down a little bit. They're so banged up. So it's just a matter of time for they either fall off or reboost. They probably need a bye week or something to straighten it out. And some of these teams get 2 bye weeks now. So maybe they get another bye week and can straighten that out before we head into the tail end of the season. Like you said, I was wondering earlier today too. I said, are we really halfway in the season? I said, it's 7th week. It's kind of more than half because, some of these guys' regular season is 12 games. Some of them less. But so that was another one thing.
They got the bye, and then they had the week 0. So, you know what I mean? So that kind of pushed it along a little bit too. So they'll still play 12 games. So they're probably about halfway done after this week.
Yeah.
Or pretty much.
Now, one of the other interesting ones where I seen I was high on Iowa State. I said 9-10 wins. You said 8-9 wins. They already took 2 losses, but they were really tough losses. Like they barely lost to Iowa, and they also barely lost to Baylor as well. And Baylor's 5-0, and Iowa's still competition in their conference. It's out of the conference game. Yeah. So I don't know. I think we might be leaning towards your side right here. One more oopsie and it's a wrap.
Yeah.
So they got who they got this week? I believe they had West Virginia this week, which is going to be a tough game. They still got Texas Tech, Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Texas. They just reaching the meat of their schedule right here. And I think you might have got the 8 or it might be 7. I don't know. Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, and West Virginia all in one bunch. That's a tough task right there. But they're a really good team, though. They did excel, number wise and how they look, and they swag stepped up a little bit more this year than last year. Last year they were peaking. They were kind of peaking to be good, but this year they're really good. I think they should have won that game against Iowa, and I think if they played the game over with Baylor, they probably could do a better job in that game as well. But at West Virginia, at Texas Tech, Oklahoma State at home, at Oklahoma, Texas at home. That's rough, man. Maybe pick the bad year for this fourth-year coach right here to try to get to the promised land. He really built that. Maybe he thought he was going to have a team that was going to be this thick to go through this type of cold butter that he's heading to in the end of this. It's what you call it. But other than that,
those two games could have went either way. The 2-1 you talk about the Baylor and Iowa State or Iowa game. If he flips those around, then they're looking like they're in the driver's seat right now, in a good position. So tough losses, but quality games for them, just didn't come out on the right side.
Yeah, that was another thing I had mentioned. Like, if they can make it 4-0, then it looks good for them. But they didn't quite make it 4-0. They're 3-2. Other spots, TCU, I kind of watch afar. Oklahoma State, I don't like playing teams that don't care about defense. And then Kansas State is surprising. Looks like to me overall, if I had to give a overall grading to the Big 12, is that I'll say there's some good ATS busters. Good teams to play ATS. As a dog, these teams got fight. So if you catch any of them out of conference anywhere down the line, if they dog them, take them.
Yep. They're good looks. They're all good looks, and like you say, it's a fun conference. They score, and they're up against not that they're up against it, but when they're up against it in a dog roll, that's a good look for them playing out of conference, especially out of conference as a dog. Now there is a big game coming up this week, which we'll probably talk about this game Saturday. Unfortunately, I don't have all the breakdowns, but early look, they're going to have their. And I'm not going to be politically correct here. I'm going to call it the Red River Shootout. Somebody said something about the Red River rivalry or something like that.
Yeah.
Get the heck out of it. It's the Red River Shootout, man. This game is going to be a shootout come Saturday. And you talk about Texas being banged up. It's on the defensive side is where they're really, really hurting now. So, in Oklahoma, every year, I mean, how many years in a row can this guy, Lincoln Riley, produce a Heisman Trophy candidate? I mean, he did it with Mayfield. He did it with Murray, and now he's got Hurts, which and you talked about that. You said you didn't think Hurts was going to fit in the system right away, but not saying that you didn't agree with it, but you thought he'd start off a little slow, but he kind of picked up the pieces right away, wouldn't you say, coming in there?
Absolutely. It was a couple of weeks ago. I did mention that all that haterism I had, all that hate in my voice, I had to swallow some of that because. I can't really go against this guy, but I had an interesting conversation with one of my, it's SC rival week. So right here in LA, all my SC people, they already know I'm Notre Dame. They pop up on me because if they try to talk all that smack after the game is over, I won't pick up their phone call. But if they come do their due diligence and come see me before this game, and we sit down and have a football conversation, then win or lose or draw, we can have another conversation after. But interesting. Some of these guys, too, that are just fans of the game, especially college football that love it, they have some most greatest edges and all kinds of stuff. So he was explaining to me that he feels that Jalen Hurts got it in his heart to beat Alabama in the championship. And the way he's playing right now kind of reflects that. Like you said, he's picked up the pieces big time over there. He's really become a quarterback that they can run some things behind. The only thing that I think could be holding them back is the defense and pressure. That guy, when he was at Alabama, you start bringing the pressure, he busts like a pipe. But right now he's doing excellent. I wish him the greatest success. I won't be betting a lot of that because I think it may be a matter of time for somebody to catch him on a bad day. But so far, so good for Oklahoma. This guy might have his eye on Alabama. That would be one of the greatest college football championships we had in a while, especially in the playoff thing, to have this young kid use the modern day transfer over to this team where this guy has put out all these NFL things, and they go in there up against Alabama, who's mad because they lost last year, and they have one of their ex-players on the other side. And my buddy was saying, he was like, man, Alabama's a simple system. He's going to be able to break the defense down. He's going to be able to help the coaches prepare for the offense because he knows it like that. Not only did he play it and start it and everything, but he sat back for a while and watched it. So we might be on something with Jalen Hurts. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, keep this in mind, too. Since they started this college football playoff system, I don't know how many times. I know it's probably like 3 or 4 times maybe that the Big 12 was represented. They never even won a game in the playoffs yet. So they're going to be up against it, with that monkey on their back if they get there. But I'll be rooting for them because I like the Big 12. It's like I say, it's one of my favorite conferences to kind of sit back and watch some exciting football. It's a different brand of football, but it's a fun style of football. It's a great spectator style of football to watch.
Yeah, and it's dominated by Texas. It's Texas football.
Texas football.
It's
a
Texas
region.
Football over there. Yeah.
I mean, you look at all the teams that come. I mean, you probably got like half the conference is Texas related football. Texas, Oklahoma. It's just how it rolls out. That's the wild, wild west.
The wild, wild west. Before you get to the West Coast, because we're a little different over here. Right. We're a little dainty over here. But yeah, man. So catch us on the closing line on Saturday morning. We'll definitely, I'm pretty sure we'll have to jump in the smoke with some of these games. I'm done with my Mountain West. I'm done with my meatball plays. I'm done with my other looks. I'm looking to some plays to hop in the smoke and see if I can find a good spot for everybody. So join us on Saturday morning on the closing line. What's that? 8 a.m. on the West Coast, 11 a.m. on the East Coast, and you'll see me, Big Ragu. You'll see Drew Martin. You'll see the Babano, and really exciting show. A lot of information. If you like the information on this show, you'll definitely love the information on that show as well. But it's nothing other than the boss and the sauce, because we come together and we feed families. You know what I'm saying? That's what we do. And make sure you come hang out with us tomorrow. Who-Bangin Sports Talk Lounge. I don't even know who guests we have on tomorrow. It might just be all of our team on there, but we'll be on there for sure.
Yeah.
And we'll go over some more looks. Maybe I'll be in cap a couple of those Big 12 games, and we could talk about some of that. Maybe we'll go over one of those games on the show, Big Ragu.
Yeah.
Get some input from some of the people tomorrow, because they got some really big games. Texas, Oklahoma, Iowa State, West Virginia, Texas Tech, and Baylor. All those count. Count.
Yeah,
they count big time.
You got a pretty good game in Wisconsin and Michigan State tomorrow too. Or Saturday, Wisconsin. Yeah. That's another game. But anyways, what do you think we put a bow on this, my man, and we get ready for tomorrow evening and start putting that show together?
I say absolutely. But before we go, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of our fellas in the chat: Prince of the City, OG Wham, Locking 24/7, Joe Antic, Alex Ramirez, Oscar Sanchez. He's in here again. He was here last week. Like I said, Jonathan Jansky, that's our favorite viewer for today, came in and said it's his favorite show. Guess what, Jonathan? You are our favorite viewer. We appreciate you coming in here and hanging out with us today. But that's it right here on the Boss and the Sauce Show this Thursday. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and definitely hit the notify so you can come hang out with us when we do all these shows. We got plenty of content coming up. We got some hot, fresh content coming up tomorrow in MLB. It's not going to be no premiere. It's not going to be no live. Just keep a lookout for it. You're going to get some great plays from our own Noli Nose and Dom Ricci. And stay tuned. It's already dropped. If you didn't see it, it's in the video log. Wham Talk is back active. First episode is ready to go.
Yeah,
He
great
got a
job by him.
breakdown.
Nice job by Wham. I watched it today. I had the first opportunity to go back and watch it today, Wham. He did an excellent job on that, my man. Keep those fire videos coming all NBA season. And then
That's right.
how about if I'm going to make an open invite right now, if it's okay by you. I'm going to invite Prince of the City to come on and talk maybe a little tennis action tomorrow night if
I
you
would
want.
love that. I got so many questions. I would love that. We would definitely appreciate Prince of the City to come on here and talk tennis. And our guy Wham, he does tennis too. Maybe we'll make tomorrow about tennis. See if we get Unbelievable, a couple other good tennis cappers in here, and we'll open up the show on some tennis, and we'll get into all that gritty stuff after that. But we're gonna go ahead and put a bow on it. I'd like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for everybody showing up. Appreciate you. Tune in next week to the Boss and the Sauce. And guess what?
I'll see you at the window.
I'll see you at the window. Y'all have a good one. Good night.
Good night, everybody.